The goal of the Hammerhead Karoo 2 is to take some of the most advanced mobile computing technologies available and package them into a weatherproof, durable device that can securely fit on the front of your bike. Couple that with a modern mobile operating system and then let the Hammerhead software team run absolutely wild, developing and designing features that cyclists would care most about, with an absolutely ridiculous 2-week update cycle, and all of this makes the Hammerhead Karoo 2 a very compelling cycling computer. But with a premium price tag of $400, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. In this video, I want to talk about 4 major annoyances I have with the Hammerhead Karoo 2 and how that could affect your buying decision. Now, I've been using the Hammerhead Karoo 2 for about 5 or 6 months now, and this review is long overdue. But in my defense, the company updates the software on this thing every 2 weeks, and it's not just small updates. You know, over the past 5 or 6 months, there's been significant updates like the addition of a Climb Pro feature, better onboarding, better load times, all new UI elements, and even some really obvious items like, you know, adding the ability to dismiss a ride, which, you know, seems crazy, super weird to me that you couldn't dismiss a ride when I first got this device, but at least they fixed that in one of those bi-weekly updates. And maybe that's the one key takeaway about this device. The Hammerhead Karoo 2 changes every 2 weeks. And I think that's a good thing. In fact, you know, it might be the coolest thing about this device. And in 2021, I did describe it as, you know, the most innovative triathlon product of the year, because it really, you know, it's different. It's different from Garmin and Wahoo and Brighton devices. You know, it's different than the things that are on the market currently, and it's evolving really quickly. So there's, you know, a subtle difference, I would say, between saying like, this is the most innovative product and it being my favorite cycling computer. And, you know, some of my dislikes about the Hammerhead Karoo 2, you know, are actually on the hardware side. Now, when we do look at the basic hardware details, there's actually a lot to like here. The device is built on top of the Android mobile operating system. It's the most popular operating system for mobile devices in the world. And it uses a lot of modern mobile hardware as well. The screen itself, it's a 3.2-inch screen. It's very crisp, it's very bright. 292 pixels per square inch, which, you know, that's better than anything else there that's on the market, at least as far as I can find at the recording of this video. And the touchscreen is extremely responsive. I would say maybe it struggles a little bit when I wear gloves, but you do have 4 buttons that'll help you perform a lot of the basic stuff like switching pages, starting, pausing, stopping activities. And then, you know, weight-wise, it is a heavy device, 132 grams. It makes it kind of, you know, the most heavy device that I've tested here on this channel. Ironically, I will say that it is 33% lighter than the original Hammerhead Karoo, which was a bit of a beast for sure. The screen itself is covered in Dragon Glass, which is kind of like Gorilla Glass. If you're familiar with like smartphone stuff, it's probably what your smartphone has. I've dropped this a couple of times. You can see a couple of spots that have like a little bit of wear and tear just over the past 5 months. Overall, I do think that it's held up really well. I don't see any like major scratches or complete cracks in the screen itself. The Karoo 2 also has a beeper for turns. It is compatible with Strava Live segments, and you can add a 4G SIM card so you can do things like live tracking on your device or just data transfer over a cellular network. And in my experience, I would say GPS accuracy was fine. You know, it's hard because, you know, comparing it to a lot of the watches that I test on this channel, you know, it's probably not quite as good. But for road cycling, I just don't think it's a big deal. I thought mapping on this device was actually pretty good on the roads. Not so much on the trails. I would say that it knew about some of the basic trails near my house, but not more of the complex trail systems that I use when I actually go mountain biking, kind of the stuff that I do back behind Round Lake. And I haven't seen any sort of integration options with something like trail forks mapping, which would be a cool thing for them to tackle in the near future. But one feature that the Hammerhead team has been like furiously working on is a feature called Climb Pro. And it works very much like Garmin's Climber feature, you know, if you're familiar with that. It's the ability to visualize the climb that you're actually riding on with details like percentage gradient and distance to the top of the climb. And it used to be that Climb Pro would work by looking at the route that you've programmed in, and then it'll know which climbs qualify and show you them accordingly. Just very similar to what Garmin does. But recently, maybe just in the last like 2 or 3 updates, Hammerhead updated the Climb Pro feature with what they call predictive path, meaning that you don't have to put in a route. So it'll just kind of take a guess as to where it thinks you're going, and it'll show you the Climb Pro details, you know, no matter what. And, you know, as someone who very rarely puts in a route when I actually go for a ride, I really love this update. Most of the time I just hop on the bike and go, and there's actually a ton of good climbing around where I live. So, you know, if you start up a hill, it'll actually just figure it out and switch over to that Climb Pro screen. If you take a turn that's kind of not expected off of the climb that it thinks you're doing, it'll just turn the Climb Pro screen off. It's not a big deal, but I do love that update, and it's something that I will definitely use a lot. Now, some people might see this large, crisp display with clear navigation features and think that this is gonna be a good option for something like bike packing. But, you know, I think that the battery life might leave some of those users wanting more. The Garmin Edge 1030 Plus is a very common bike computer with a similar size screen, and the battery life is about 24 hours or so. And the Garmin has, you know, some battery add-on options, you know, that you can kind of clip to the bottom of the device if you want to go further. The Wahoo Roam is kind of another competitive device close to $400, and that'll go about 17 hours. But my experience with the Karoo 2 is that you're really only gonna get around like 7 hours, kind of depending on how and what features you're using. And in the case of something like bike packing, you know, I'd expect a lot of map usage and a lot of navigation usage, which is very battery intensive. Lastly, on battery, you know, I don't really see an easy way to change the battery on this device once that lithium-ion battery starts to get old. And, you know, I haven't seen any sort of program or some sort of information on how you could send it off to be replaced. So that means that, you know, when this battery dies out, you're just stuck. You're stuck buying, you know, a whole new device. Another issue that I'm finding with the Hammerhead Karoo 2 is its, you know, mounting system. And I think they're really proud of it. You know, I see it within their advertisements and stuff, but, you know, after 5 or 6 months of using it, I'm still struggling with it. I'm finding it super annoying. It just kind of like securely clicks in, and then you kind of click out, and then it doesn't kind of come out when you want it to. You click it again, and then somehow you can kind of wiggle it off the bike, but it never quite works right. And I also have a few bikes. So, you know, I've been using that kind of proprietary mounting system on my road bike, and then using their like Garmin adapter for other bikes. But, you know, switching between these adapters, it's just kind of a pain in the ass. And, you know, now I can't find that Garmin adapter. So definitely frustrating. I wish that they would just kind of scrap it and aim for something a little simpler, like, you know, those basic quarter turn systems. I really like the sleek one that Wahoo uses with its bolt. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's something that I will learn to love, but currently definitely finding it annoying. Now, the Hammerhead has this dashboard web portal, but it doesn't have an app, and I get it. I think that they believe that the bike computer should take the place of the smartphone, and that it shouldn't need a smartphone app. And I think that this is some sort of like higher up CTO type person that's like, die on a hill, moral judgment call. They're just not going to create a mobile app for this particular device. And I think they're wrong. Having a smartphone app would make this bike computer better. It would make it faster to tweak settings, it would make it easier to add routes, and you could definitely set up some sort of more immersive way to review your rides. Now, Hammerhead, has a little something for Android that just kind of brings in Android texts and notifications, but they have absolutely nothing for iOS. And, I don't think that this should be like a really hard decision for them. I think your customers want this and you guys should just help them out. Okay, my last major annoyance, and I do love that the Hammerhead Karoo 2 has USB-C, but they have this little press-in rubber cover to keep water from getting into the charging port area, just like every other bike computer on the market. But every other bike computer on the market has that little plug attached to the device because if it's not attached to the device, it's gonna get lost. And that little USB cover plug thing is absolutely tiny. So if you've just recently purchased your Hammerhead Karoo 2, I would say take a quick look at that plug, give it like a squeeze or a hug, maybe take a picture of you two together because that thing is going to be gone immediately, if not sooner. And remember that without that, the Karoo 2 could get water in here, it could get water damage, and that would be a very expensive mistake. I have 2 quick tips for you, just from stuff that I've noticed. You can buy those little USB-C cover ports, those little plugs, in bulk for cheap. Or I met this really nice guy online who sells 3D printed USB covers with a little hole that you can run a tether through, and it's using soft TPU rubber. He's only charging like $3 for them. I think now it's like 4 for 13. Honestly, I really think you should actually charge more for those little things. But I'm gonna leave a link to both of those options in the description of this video, and you guys can check those out if you have a Hammerhead and you wanna pick up some sort of USB cover. Okay, let's talk about who I think should avoid the Hammerhead Karoo 2. First off, if you're one of those people that are very concerned about weight, there's other devices on the market that can do a lot, maybe not everything that this computer does, but a lot at a fraction of the weight of this device. If you're one of those people that wants to go really long, maybe a bike packing type person, I think that this battery life is gonna be frustrating for you. Next, if you are into mountain biking, I do think that there are better options than this on the market, just because of, being more specific about trails and different mountain biking options. Lastly, if you're one of those like non-techie people where a device that's constantly updating is gonna annoy you, then this one might be a skip for you as well. Now, the crazy part about putting a review out about the Karoo 2 is that it is such an evolving product with all of the software updates that this review, it might be obsolete by the time you're watching this. So I think it might help to continue the conversation down below in the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking of the Karoo 2 or what you're finding annoying about the device. Either way, be sure to get out there, swim, bike, run, rinse, and then repeat it all over again. And we will see you guys on the next one.